Make it through.
Mayor, we're ready when you are.
All right. It is. Just give her one more minute. Good. I haven't much for today. I'm fine.
You didn't get an indigestion. Which is
Cars. All right. I'd like to call to order the Town of Fraser Board of Trustees meeting Wednesday, September 3rd at 6:01 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Katie Fisher, Peggy Smith, Julie White,
Louis Gregory.
Katie Souls.
And Brian Sirkvenik. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes for August 20th, 2025, recommending approval of final plat and major site plan for Centrum Condominiums, motion for continuance, Resolution 2025-0902, authorizing the town manager to reimburse Strom Townhomes LLC for gas main extension on Clayton Court, Resolution 2025-0903, appointing DDA board members, and letter of support, open lands, rivers, trails for Cousins Ranch open space conservation easement.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion about this?
Yeah, just one correction on the minutes. The vote on the Fraser Housing Authority, one of them has 7 instead of 6. Just a typo, right?
Thank you. I will correct that.
Sorry?
I will correct that, the minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor with that change?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks all. We'll move on now to open forum. This is for business not on the agenda. If you'd like to speak to the board, you could have 3 minutes of time. We'll start with those in the room. Okay, and anyone online? Okay, no hands raised online. We will move on to discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 2025-0904, St. Louis Landing Notice to Proceed. We have Aaron Nave and with Holland and Hart.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me online. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. I am on a pre-planned family vacation, but glad to be with you to discuss this resolution with respect to the notice to proceed for St. Louis Landing. As you're all aware, the town is a party to the development agreement with Mountain Affordable Housing Development LLC with respect to St. Louis Landing. The development agreement allows the town, and the town does desire at this time to have approval to have the notice to proceed issued to the developer, which would allow vertical construction to commence with respect to buildings C, D, and E. I'm going to call the notice to proceed just so we can, for purposes of brevity, is the NTP. So that's how I'll refer to it in the rest of my comments. The NTP is a formal written approval that will authorize work to begin vertical construction as just described. It serves as the formal start date for the project and helps to solidify the project schedule. The NTP that the town is asking for approval tonight is conditional. In other words, what that means is the NTP is not effective as to each building until certain events occur. For Building D, the NTP will be effective upon receipt of executed financing documents for the CHAFA Prop 123 equity program. For buildings C and E, The NTP will be effective upon disbursement of approximately $5 million in interim loan funds from the town to the Fraser Housing Authority. There's going to be additional sort of detailed discussion that's going to come after me with respect to the loan. And they'll get into that loan and sort of the financing details for you. That said, with your approval of that loan, the anticipation is that those funds would be dispersed very quickly, and that condition would be fulfilled, and construction would be able to begin on building C and E pretty much immediately. With respect to building D, closing on the Chaffa loan and subsequent start of the construction would be expected in spring 2026. There was a lot of detail that was discussed at the last meeting, both with respect to the financing and with respect to the development agreement. But because of our request to have the NTP issued, I would simply remind you that upon issuance of the NTP, certain things do happen within the development agreement, and that includes the transition of the fee structure for the developer from hourly to a percentage of development costs, as it states in detail as well. And then with respect to termination of the agreement by the town, termination can only then occur in the event of an uncured default by the developer or the town's failure to appropriate the funds that are identified for the financing within those development agreements. Finally, the resolution also authorizes the town manager and town attorney and the chair of the Fraser Housing Authority to take those actions that are needed to issue the NTP, as well as to secure those funding sources that have been identified within the budget that was discussed and presented within the last meeting. This authority will allow the project to stay on schedule and empower the town manager and others to sort of efficiently and timely take those actions that are needed for the project to move forward to completion. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have about this resolution.
Did you say issue the entity? Was that what you just said? Sorry.
NTP as in notice
NPD.
to
Oh, gotcha.
proceed.
Yeah, gotcha. That my hearing. I'm putting my hearing aid on now. Never mind. Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
What entity? Oh boy.
We did hear a lot about this a couple weeks ago, so
did.
I don't know. I'm open to more questions, but if you guys want to move forward,
Yeah.
we can.
Well, it seems like the way this is structured, moving D to spring when the money from Prop 123 comes in, which is kind of I guess, the missing piece, which is we are confident that it's going to appear. This makes a lot of sense, and we would have proceeded regardless on the other two buildings. And so this sort of lays it out in a timeline that makes sense, I think. I think so too.
Yeah, and as described in the last meeting, D wasn't originally part of the phase one plan, and so they don't have the ability to do it before the spring. So I think regardless, that's the timeline. We budgeted 25 minutes for this, but if you guys are ready, we can roll.
So I'm good with it. I think it's a step we have to take, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
attorneys did a good job with all the caveats, and think
Yeah,
it's something that you guys can live with. Do we need to hear from these guys first, if it works for them?
yeah. If you want to take the stage here.
Never pass up an opportunity. Matt Ginsburg, Mount Affordable Housing Development, who would never pass up an opportunity to speak in front of you guys. Just a couple of updates since then. So, one, you probably saw some budgetary things going on, and at the state level, we have confirmed with Chaffa, which I've shared an email with Michael and with Sarah, that our Prop 123 award is before any of those budgetary changes are taking place. So when somebody asks you and you read, oh gosh, they're going to eliminate some of the funding for Prop 123, we're before that.
Whew.
That's not to say the whole thing's without risk, but
Yeah.
not that risk.
Yeah.
We despite all our best efforts, Chaffa told us that they'd probably be a month later, which we kind of presumed would happen, underwriting the middle income access program. So that $2.5 million kind of slice of capital in the middle of the capital stack. If you look at the numbers that we presented last week, which haven't really changed from week to week, or 2 weeks ago, haven't really changed from 2 weeks to 2 weeks. What's on the agenda today in terms of the loan and the NTP will allow us to survive that delay. And with the help of the folks in the back behind there and the other folks that aren't on the call, Stiefel, your underwriters, we've got another plan that may just have us put that $2.6 million of funding aside in favor of a different bond structure that we'll discuss later at a later date. But would just keep the pace, actually what we laid out last or 2 weeks ago. So like either we're delayed and things are going the way we said, or we found a way to work around it and things are faster. So
Okay.
I feel like those things I want to tell you before you say yes or no.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Any questions for Matt?
No.
Anybody else in the audience?
So, yeah, I missed the last meeting, so I wasn't sure, but why is it taking so long to get the funds from the state agencies? I mean, we've been awarded them, why are they not?
Most of them have come with like a conditional approval and then they begin an extensive kind of underwriting process. So as Matt has explained it to me, as long as correct information has been given to them, we should get that final approval once we move through that, but they do have to go through that underwriting process.
Is there a risk that we won't get those funds?
There is a potential, but our understanding is that, again, as long as information has been accurately represented, that we should pass through that underwriting process and get that final approval.
Sure.
We discussed this last time, and so and I'm happy to kind of say it again. The initial evaluation of the project, particularly with Prop 123, has been done. The project met all the requirements. The underwriting is sort of crossing T's, dotting I's, and making sure that the absolute agreement and the financials and everything and the changes that are going to happen and when you start an application process in the late part of Q1 and you get to an award in over the summer, and then you get to underwriting in the second half of the year, and you're actually dispersing funds at the end of the year, at the beginning of next year, that things are changing, projects are developing, and so the underwriting process takes care of all those changes. So I think as we characterized it last time, we might see, and it's in fact in the approval letter or the award letter that we got from Prop 123, we might see the total amount that they would give us move by, they said up to 10% up or down, so it could be more, could be less, but not that we would be unqualified for it. So
Right.
I'll just hang here for that.
Is there anyone online that wants to ask a question? All right, looks like no.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2025-0904.
Second.
Any further discussion about this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks.
All right.
Thanks, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats to you.
To work. Great.
All right, moving on to ordinance 526, enacting a supplemental budget and appropriating and loaning funds to the Fraser Housing Authority for St. Louis Landing. This is Maddie Pradanovic and Dalton Kelly.
Good evening. While they're pulling that up, Maddie Pradanovic with Hilltop Securities, the town's municipal advisor. Nice to see you all again. So I am back this evening to talk about the interim financing options that we kind of prefaced a little bit when we were here a couple of weeks ago. As a reminder, from a big picture perspective, the reason that we have this need is because we're in the process of finalizing all of these other funding sources, including finalizing dollar amounts for the MyTech funds, finalizing the final commitment and a dollar amount for the Prop 123 funds, as Matt alluded to, determining whether we need the MyApp funds or if we have some other alternative, and then obviously working through the process of actually issuing the revenue bonds from the Housing Authority to support the project. Those things all obviously take time, and we don't anticipate having those in place until December. There's some funding that needs to occur to continue construction, but between now and then. And so we determined that we needed to identify some interim financing solutions to kind of plug that gap. Additionally, there's a bit of a timing mismatch with the MyTech funds where you guys are being awarded those. They'll be priced, later this fall, so we know the dollar amount. However, those funds are not actually received until after we've reached stabilization. So we're assuming sometime mid to late 2027. And so instead of finding two separate interim financing solutions, one that gets us between now and December and another that gets us from December until, mid to late 2027, we've decided to kind of commingle those things and just find one interim funding solution up front that gets us the funding that you need to continue construction from now to December, and then also allows us to kind of weather that gap of timing between when MyTech funds have officially been, provided for, and when you actually receive them. I do want to just note, you'll see the number 5.4 million in here several times as it relates to the MyTech funding. The number that you would have seen in your sources and uses from last time we were here was 5,150,000. That was a net number. So that essentially factored out some costs that are paid for as it relates to actually selling the tax credits and all those types of things. And so those costs obviously also have to be funded up front. And so we're focused on this $5.4 million number since that's essentially what we're targeting. It also assumes that 70 cents on the dollar for the sale, the actual pricing of those MyTech credits, which we obviously don't know sitting here today. Okay, so short-term borrowing options. So if you'll recall, when we were here 2 weeks ago, we had 3 options that we had narrowed down to 2, and now I'm back to you with 3 again, but a different 3. So what we do not have on here is the IDF loan, just because that was impractical, costly, et cetera. And so we narrowed it down last time we were here to the town loan or the loan with Citywide Bank. We now have 2 town loan options because what we had talked about last time essentially assumed that there was no interest charged by the town to the housing authority for that loan. And that so essentially you were just there were just foregone interest earnings of that balance that you would not earn over the 2 years or so that it was, loaned out to the housing authority. That is an option still. An alternative to that is what we've now kind of inserted as a new option too, which is a town loan where there's interest that's being charged to the housing authority that's commensurate essentially with the interest you would have otherwise earned had those funds been invested, on a monthly basis, essentially. And the third option is still the Citywide Bank loan. And we have a few more details there from a financial perspective. So in the town loan with no interest, nothing has really changed there. We're talking about a $5.4 million loan. Those funds are available immediately. It's relatively easy to put in place. If we assume an annual investment return of 4% and that those investment earnings are swept, so essentially our interest is not compounding, just to kind of keep the math simple here, the loss of investment earnings over that period would be about $418,000. So that's option 1. Option 2 would be to do the exact same thing, but instead of just foregoing the interest, you essentially just charge that 4% interest to the loan that you're giving to the housing authority, which would essentially allow you to recoup the $418,000 that you would otherwise forego in this option 1. The one challenge here is that we're assuming a loan of $5.4 million, which is equivalent to the assumed amount that you're going to receive in tax credits. That would imply that actually the amount that is owed back to the town is actually $5.8 million or so, right? The 5.4 million plus that $418,000 of interest earnings. that there would not be MyTech funds to repay. There are some options. Dalton will explain kind of the structure of the ordinance and the very draft loan agreement here. That could theoretically be charged on a subordinate basis to the project. So essentially behind the revenue bonds that we're talking about issuing by the housing authority. So that would be paid out in the future over time. The alternative is to downsize the loan amount that you're providing so that it is net of that interest cost, so that the 5.4 million that you do get from the tax credits is sufficient to pay off the principal and the loan amount. I'll explain on the next slide the implication that has to the funding, but that is an option. And then the citywide bank loan is obviously the slightly more complicated one here. So you're talking about borrowing funds up front from citywide bank, but then they are essentially requiring you to then put the same amount that you are borrowing on deposit with them. It is earning interest, but it is funding that you cannot access while that loan is outstanding. And as a reminder, that's really more of a Tabor issue because they would like to rely on the town of Fraser as a borrowing entity rather than the housing authority, but we can't enter into a multi-fiscal year obligation as the town. And so it's going through the housing authority, but they need some additional security other than just relying on these funds to come in the future, which is why that deposit is being held there. The indicative interest rate that we received from them was 4.25%. They are estimating an interest rate investment return rate right now of about 3.7%. The complication here is that we will need to borrow for capitalized interest. So they will start charging interest on a monthly basis at the time the loan occurs. There are no funds to pay that interest sitting here today because the project isn't developed, right? And so we will essentially need to borrow for that interest amount upfront, which is going to increase the total amount that we need to borrow to approximately 5.9 million instead of that 5.4. So that difference being the interest costs over those 2 years. In addition to that amount, there will be a $25,000 origination fee from Citywide Bank, and then there will be some additional legal costs of kind of creating and structuring this loan that we're estimating to be somewhere between another, $25,000 to $75,000, depending on what the costs are. That said, you would earn interest while those funds are sitting there. So to kind of try and compare apples to apples, we tried to create a table to make this a little bit more simplified. So option one, again, the town loan with no interest charge is pretty straightforward. You have a loan amount of 5.4 million. The funding for the project we're assuming is that 5,150,000 net of the costs. So similar to what, the exact number that was used in the source and use that we went through last time. Your interest earned is really foregone interest, why is negative there of approximately $418,000. We've got some positives and negatives there, but for that one, I think those are pretty straightforward. So we won't go through those in detail. For options 2 and 3, what we've assumed is that we downsize the loans so that the MyTech funds, that 5.4 million, is sufficient to pay off the principal and interest. We don't have to do that, but that is, if we're kind of talking about overall financial impacts to the project, those are the most relevant, I guess I would say. If the town wanted to just proceed with a full $5.4 million loan and count on future revenues from the project to cover interest or, interest costs over that period, that is from a project perspective, it's basically the same as option 1. So in option 2, if we're downsizing, assuming a 4% interest rate charged by the town to the housing authority, that reduces our loan amount to a little bit over $5 million and reduces the funding to the project to about 4.75 million from that 5.15 million. So obviously about 391,000. I will note that you may recall when we were talking about this last time, there is some contingency built into that sources and uses. So we could conceivably just assume the contingency is reduced by that amount, or we can work, on some other areas of potentially being able to get additional funding out of the revenue bonds as an example, or something else as we move through the final sources identification over the next 3 months to try and kind of cover that difference. Positives again here is it's very easy to implement, but different from option 1, you're essentially made whole in this instance. Obviously not until the end, right? In an instance where those funds are otherwise invested, you're getting monthly interest earnings. In this instance, you're just going to get it all in one lump sum payment when you get the money back, but at least you're still getting that $418,000-ish. In option 3, that loan amount is reduced to a little bit under $5 million in that instance, again, to make sure that there are sufficient MyTech funds for repayment. That reduces funding to the project by about $440,000. You have some interest earned there as well, obviously, on the funds sitting with UMB. There are closing costs for that, which again, we're estimating between $50,000 and $75,000. Those are assumed to be paid with cash up front. So really your net number there, if you're kind of looking at overall financial benefit, is actually, closer to $315,000 up to, $330,000, because we're assuming you pay cash for that rather than borrowing it. Because again, since you have to put whatever you're borrowing on deposit also with UMB, it doesn't really make sense to borrow to pay costs of issuing, and then basically you're essentially paying it twice, right? Because you then have to go put it on balance. Positives here are that you're likely able to draw interest earnings monthly. So unlike the option 2, where you are eventually getting repaid your interest, it's not happening until the end. In this instance, you are getting, monthly interest earnings on what's invested at UMB. The negatives here, though, is obviously it's the most costly and time-consuming option to implement, and then it does have the largest impact to the pro forma of the 3 options that we're evaluating here. I will pause because that's a lot. So are there any questions?
I have a question. Couple questions. So the interest rate you're quoting, is it a variable interest rate, or is this a fixed rate that we're entering into?
So the citywide bank option is a fixed interest rate. So that 4.25% is fixed. What you're earning on the investments of the fund sitting at UMB is variable, because it'll just be in, I think they provided some like 6-month CD option. So there's some option to lock in an investment return, but otherwise that is variable. On the interest rate option assumption for option 2, I'm using 4% right now because that's effectively what you're getting out of Colo Trust. That said, when we have seen this occur for like a local government to do an interfund loan, typically they set it up so that it's being loaned at the rate that of your investment return. So it would theoretically change over time. It doesn't have to be, though. We also could just pick an interest rate. It doesn't necessarily have to be what you're getting today. If we wanted to assume rates might go down over the next 2 years, we could kind of work on some like a 3% return, something like, right? It's really up to you to determine what the interest rate is here. We're just assuming 4% just so that they're kind of apples to apples across all the options.
So the citywide bank actually, if the interest rates do go down, then that's even a larger gap, because
Correct.
the loan amount's fixed, the loan rate's fixed.
Exactly.
Could we create like an option 2A or 2B? I mean, I don't speak for anyone else, that we're trying to make money on it, but could we break even if you came in with a loan rate of like 2%? Could we come close to 0? I mean, we don't want to lose money on interest, I don't think, but could we kind of break even on it? Would there be another option that you could?
Yeah, absolutely. We can adjust that. The other thing that I'm guessing this is what Dalton's getting up to say is that you guys are able to basically forego any of the repayment, right, as the town. So you could charge, as an example, 4%. We could have the interest rate set monthly to whatever the average monthly Colo Trust rate is, or something like that. And if there aren't funds sufficient to repay it at the end, then you would just waive that repayment of that interest, as an example. You don't have to charge interest, I guess is my point. So we can now either set a lower interest rate up front, or we can set something that's commensurate with what your returns are, and then you can just make the choice to waive that interest earning at the end if there are not sufficient funds to repay it.
Well, and I'm not talking about waiving it, interest payment due, but can we kind of set it up so we would break even? I mean, here, this is showing that our interest is we would make almost 400,000 in interest, right?
Right,
Right.
but we don't have to charge that out if we don't want to. We could give basically forgiveness on that.
The break even would be you charging what you would otherwise earn from an investment perspective, right? Because it's essentially you charging to make up for your foregone interest earnings of the balance of those funds, which sitting here today is 4%. That said, it does not have to be set up to charge 4%.
So that could be option 2A or 2B, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything you want to add there?
Yeah,
I'll add, and I think this is a good segue into the way that the ordinance is drafted, because really what you have is supposed to be a hold harmless so that you're not making money, but you're not losing money. So the interest rate that you would be charging on the loan to the housing authority is just what you would have earned had it just been sitting in your bank account. So if College Trust is at 4%, you'll earn 4%, they'll pay that you would have earned 4%, so they'll pay 4%. If it goes down, that's that floating rate. If it's 3, it's 3. So essentially by setting it up with this floating interest rate based off what your investment would have been, it's meant to be a hold harmless. There's also a lot of optionality built into the way we've drafted the ordinance right now, because with all three options, having issued the notice to proceed, you need to make some funding available really between now and if you went with the citywide bank option until that loan closed, or under either of the other options, right now, you're making the money available so it can proceed. It's functionally a drawdown loan. And so what you'll see in the ordinance is we've authorized up to 5.4 million and delegated to the town manager the authority to determine how much is loaned over time. And so if you, and I don't know how many of you have it handy from last time, but on the presentation, there's essentially what's anticipated to be spent down over the next couple months, between September, October, November, December. So you don't have to roll out all 5.4 million right away. And so you're going to be earning money on what hasn't been, earning interest on what hasn't been spent, but then you're only charging interest on what has been drawn down. So functionally, this is supposed to work like it were just a straight interfund loan. It's a little different with two entities, but just on the details of the way we had set up the loan ordinance, knowing that under any option, we're at least going to have to make funds available until the citywide loan closed. And then under either options 1 or 2, we've authorized up to the full amount. And really with option 2, the way we have it set up right now is more, I think your biggest flexibility, because the interest rate is that floating interest rate, the hold harmless essentially at what you would have earned. You always have the option to not loan out the full 5.4 if that's not what's needed. You don't lend out the full 5.4, and so you could hit that net amount, or you could go up to the 5.4. And Maddie alluded to ways of still getting the interest that you otherwise would have earned. You always have the ability as the town to forgive any of the principal and interest if it ends up that you just have to make a contribution. This essentially can serve as contingency, but really the function here is you're making up to 5.4 million available. The interest rate is set up right now under the ordinance to be what you would have earned. And so it's a hold harmless that'll float. The maturity date right now, it's anticipating that you will pay this back with the MyTech funds. But what's really pledged from the housing authority is bond proceeds, MyTech funds, whatever they're kind of sitting on by the end of this. Project's done, pay you back, anticipated to be with the MyTech funds in 2027. And then there's language that makes this explicitly subordinate to the Housing Authority revenue bonds and the MyApp. So ultimately, if this is going to be outstanding for 2 years, which is what is anticipated, it will be a subordinate pledge. And so revenue can come down and supplement interest if you had to forego some, or if that's not paying out. But otherwise, it's going to have to be subordinate to issue. And so that's the way that it's set up. And ultimately your repayment source is either going to be bond proceeds or the MyTech funds. And so that's the way it's set up. But I just wanted to comment on that interest rate piece. If really you're looking for the hold harmless, that's what we've tried to accomplish with the floating rate, so that as rates go up and down, the interest rate that's being charged is that same piece. So really, if you had just set this money in the bank or College Trust for the next 2 years, you end up in the same place. That's the goal.
Right. So it's essentially a 2-year term. We should be able to. So what is the risk of not getting these MyTech funds? Another question again. Is that at risk?
MyTech, I'm sorry. Yeah, the MyTech has been awarded. The final amount of the MyTech funds requires actually selling the credits. And that's the uncertain part, is that'll be locked in once that's sold in November. What do we get on the sell the MyTech? Yeah. So sometime between now and the end of the year is when we'll sell the MyTech. And that'll be part of getting the capital stack put in place. On that essentially spend down schedule between now and the end of the year. It's not anticipated that the full 5.4 is needed by then, and we should have bond proceeds by then too. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there, but the certainty on the MyTech is it's been awarded. The question is how much can we sell them for to actually get the cash? And that's part of the reason why we're waiting until 2027 for that. Is there's a little bit more they're more marketable at a higher price if we're waiting there rather than during the construction risk. But that piece is solid. The Prop 123 funds, we should know in the next month or two on that. And I will comment, I know Trustee Gregory, you had an earlier comment on this about, you know, what's taken so long for the state? When are we going to have the money? I can say I'm working with a couple other clients right now, same status, same progress. This is just how slow it moves to that through the progress. So nothing going on here that isn't going on elsewhere. So I'm not concerned on as far as timing goes that somehow we're different and unstable. It's just they're really slow at getting stuff out, unfortunately. And so that's why we're really buying time through the end of the year.
And why does it take 2 years to get those MyTech funds? Or are we deferring it for a couple years because?
So, Matt can weigh in if I'm not answering this correctly, but it really has to do with we're trying to maximize the amount of the price essentially that you're getting out of and the net funding that we're getting out of the MyTech funds. And the best way to do that is to wait for them to officially sell and essentially funds transfer upon stabilization, meaning construction is completed. If we're selling and asking for funds up front, then one, you're probably selling them at a lower price, but there's also some I think like insurance or some other construction covenants essentially that would have to be made to ensure that there's going to be construction completion, like a guarantee that we, one, can't really do in this instance, and two, is costly if you're going to like a third party to provide for that. So this is essentially the way to provide the most amount of funding for the project by doing it this way, but it does create this odd time lag.
But it doesn't increase the risk of us not getting it by delaying it 2 years?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you can sell the credits at a higher price if they're not actually issued until you're ready to move people into the buildings project is built versus selling them now when there's more risk seen to the investor because the project hasn't
Right.
been built
Okay.
yet.
Okay, thank you.
And when we go to pay out for funding of the project, we don't have to do that until the bills come to us so that you
Mhm.
can still sit in Colorado Trust and
Yes.
earn interest.
Exactly. And that's, I think, what Dawn
Yeah.
kind of alluded to. So, you know, on
Yeah.
the schedule that Matt put together for last meeting, there was kind of a monthly spend that accumulated to, I think, roughly 4.5 million by the time we got to December or January. That's being spent on a monthly basis, not all at one time. So what you are earning, you're going to earn whatever of this 5.4 million that's still sitting in Colo Trust. You'll continue to earn on that until it's actually drawn out of that account.
It's essentially a construction loan.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I don't have it close to be able to tell what we anticipate from MAD having to be spent in this interim period. What was that total amount?
I think it was roughly 4.5 million. Is that right? I don't have that presentation in front of me.
Here comes Matt.
Yeah, 4.4 million through
Okay.
December. Sorry, Matt.
All right.
I stole your
Okay.
thunder. Which
So
the
going with
other-
option 2 works.
yeah, and the other benefit of that is that by then we will hopefully know what the MyTech pricing is. And so again, the ordinance authorizes a loan amount up to 5.4 million, but then delegates the authority to finalize the exact loan amount to the town manager essentially to make that final determination, which could be made upon final pricing of the MyTech credits. And so to your point, both really any of these options would fit within that as far as like a net loan amount. But it also allows us to kind of fine tune what that actually looks like as we get, you know, once we actually know what the pricing is.
Okay.
This resolution that's in here, which option is that addressing?
It
Like
is
two.
all of them basically, I think,
Huh.
right? The because we one, for any option, regardless of which option you choose, there needs to be some form of loan. The funds need to be transferred from the town to this project essentially immediately because the citywide bank option, if you chose to go down that path, does not we're not gonna be able to get that put in place until probably October, the earliest. So and Dalton can speak to the specifics, but it basically provides for that loan amount up to 5.4 million, but not required to go up to that amount, regardless of which option you choose here. And I think the same is true from an interest perspective. And so between option 1 and 2, it's really, you're delegating essentially to Michael what option you end up entering into, but the ordinance provides maximum flexibility for any of them.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's set up that you can accomplish any of them. Right now, it's drafted for option 2 based off section 4B that sets forth the interest rate. If you wanted to go with option 1, you can just make a simple amendment to say the interest rate is 0. I drafted it with option 2 kind of in mind, given that you could always, in 4H always allows you to forgive it. So you could end up with option 1, but kind of setting it up on the front end to accrue interest and then say, oh, we're not going to get paid back that 400,000 is a project contribution or whatever it is. You would have the option to do that. But the way it's kind of set up right now is anticipating out of the gate, we got a drawdown loan. You could take up to 5.4%. We're going to charge interest at our rate of return. And ultimately, if you wanted to decide later to not take the interest, you could make that decision. And this is where the benefit of the timeline is. We're not up against that 5.4 million by the end of the year when we should have the MyTech priced and when we should have bond proceeds in hand and know on the My app. And so the benefit here is if we've only taken down 4.4, you could put the rest into contingency, or you can say, actually, we're not going to get our interest back. And so we're only going to put, the last 600,000 in and end up in the true option 2 thing. So you can kind of shut off that water spigot before the end of the year. And so my suggestion on this is really it's set up for option 2. It gives you the most optionality because you are earning the interest, but you always have the option to not take down the full principal amount unless needed. You always have the option to forgive the interest. And so you can end up with option 1 if you functionally need to or want to, but setting it up with option 2 on the front end is just a little cleaner in my opinion.
Yeah, that seems to make the most sense to me. And that the citywide bank option does
No.
not seem like
No.
a good deal for the town.
I agree. So I kind of want to hear from our finance director. Do you have an opinion, a strong opinion either way on any of this, Lorraine? Or do you want to not say anything? Okay.
No, I'm actually partial to just the town doing it themselves and not using citywide because of the timing and the cost, actually, because it's going to cost the town to get a loan with them. This way, this is basically an unrestricted revenue. This is not revenue that's earmarked for any other fund. So it'll come out of Colorado Trust. I do the accounting magic, due to, due from. We give it over to the housing authority. So either one, if you just wanted to do the 5.4 and not, and it's just straight across the board, but yeah, the interest, yeah, either one is fine.
So that just giving it to the housing authority, but does that leave the money in Colorado Trust?
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so long as that happens, we
Until
have to
I
spend it.
until I actually pull it out, the money, technically the money won't move until we need to pay the bills.
Perfect. Great. Okay, thank you. All right.
Right. Anything else?
Matt.
I end up with any like differentials and characterization later in the process. So you will probably invest all 5.4 million. I just want to be clear on that because that's the amount. Ultimately, this is a bridge until 2 years from now when the MyTech dollars come in. So although everything everyone else said is correct, ultimately you should think about it as 5.4 million. And just in terms of what we're actually spending, the folks now in the back of the room do the work and then they send the bill and then the bills due a month after. So like we've budgeted through January, but that's work done through December. And so I think when we look at, if you look at the numbers from last week, if you move your eyes up one more cell to the right and you're getting a lot closer to the 5.4 number than the 4.4 number. So just, it's a real 5.4, not a super padded, cushy 5.4.
Okay.
And I think I agree with your finance director because I do agree with your finance director. That's the least friction cost, and otherwise you're paying additional legal fees and additional this and that and the other thing, and your money's at risk anyway. So
Okay.
And I think on the financial concept there, trustee Souls, Michael actually asked me to put together a slide that speaks to that. There we go.
Stretch.
Okay. Of just sort of your reserve position. I know, it's a bit timely given the presentation that was given by your finance director at the last meeting, in conjunction with the review of the audit. And so, we wanted to kind of specifically call out that, the presentation from last time noted about $20 million of reserves across all of your funds. Not all of those funds are available to support this project. So like enterprise fund balances, as an example, can't be used here. So the combined fund balance totals for the general fund, restricted revenue fund, and then the housing authority fund, which are really the three funds that are applicable and usable here, is about $13.1 million as of the end of last year. And so if the town were to loan those funds to the full 5.4 million to the housing authority, it reduces those balances I've noted here. And I think we've talked about this when we've chatted with you all about the COPs previously, and sort of your overall financial picture and how rating agencies might view the town and things like that. We spoke previously about, 70 to 80% of expenses is sort of the minimum threshold for a more resort community, that's a bit reliant on tourism to sort of maintain enough reserves to make sure that you're able to continue to operate in the event of a downturn. And so where we would anticipate that ending balance be after loaning the 5.4 million is still above that threshold. So I did just want to comment on that.
Any other questions, guys? Is everybody feeling good about option 2?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I guess I do have a question. So if we make a motion to approve a resolution, we have to stipulate that we're approving option 2?
It's
Or is
basically
it
it's
just-
written for option 2 right now.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve, what is it? I'm sorry, I lost my
Ordinance
place.
526.
902. No, not that one. Yeah.
I'm in the wrong one.
Mhm.
Ordinance
That one.
526, enacting a supplemental budget and appropriating and loaning funds to the Fraser Housing Authority for St. Louis Landing.
I'll go ahead. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Okay, motion carries. Thanks all.
All right.
Okay, at this point, I will entertain a motion to suspend the Board of Trustees meeting and open the Fraser Housing Authority meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, we are now the Fraser Housing Authority. Moving on to Fraser Housing Authority Resolution 2025-0901, appointing executive director. Dalton to present.
Good evening, Dalton Kelly with Butler Snow. So resolution 2025-09-01, pretty straightforward resolution. Under your bylaws, the chair is delegated the ability to enter into contracts and to sign contracts and checks on behalf of the authority unless otherwise set forth in a resolution. Given the notice to proceed being issued and the need to make payments on a monthly basis and keep things going, it seems appropriate to also delegate that ability to enter into contracts, sign checks, and make payments to the executive director and secretary. So under the Housing Authority statute, the executive director and secretary are the same person, same position. Your bylaws contemplate a secretary. It just hasn't been appointed yet. And so the suggestion is to appoint the town manager to be the executive director of the Housing Authority and to delegate the ability to enter into contracts and sign the checks as needed here. I'll note that this is the way other housing authorities are usually set up, is the town manager is the executive director and secretary. So not outside the norm, really a delegation of similar responsibilities that the town manager has for the town. But happy to take any questions.
So it seems like we should have a check on payments over 300,000 or 200,000 or got to run it by the mayor or something. Should be fine. I trust Michael, but
You're gonna see some big numbers, I would think.
Doesn't it require 2 signatures anyway? No?
a check
No.
don't because it's a housing authority. It just feels like we need a.
Does
a
our
check and
attorney
balance.
review with the contracts that he's signing?
And it wouldn't necessarily have to come
Contracts.
before the board. Full
This is
board,
just
but.
checks.
Saying he's directed to sign contracts and check
Checks.
on behalf of Fraser Valley or Fraser Housing
Yeah.
Authority. So is that reviewed by our attorney?
Well, this is
Contracts?
this is brought forward, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dalton, in part because as we move through the bond process and paying the various costs associated with this project, there's going to be a lot of check signing and things like that. And so in place of having Brian come in and sign all of those on a regular basis, having Michael sign those the same as he would for the town in his role as town manager. So contracts that aren't already signed, I would imagine would still be coming generally before the board for your approval, similar to what we would bring for approval before the Fraser Town Board for the town. It's just currently with the town, Michael has that authority as the town manager to sign checks and contracts and things like that. Whereas with the housing authority, the only person with authority to sign those would be Brian as chair of the housing authority.
Could we require that it's reviewed by our town attorney before we enter into new contracts?
I think if they were new contracts that we would typically put before the town attorney, we would still go through that review process, the same as we would with the town. But you wouldn't want everything. I mean, we wouldn't want to be paying the bills to have the, attorney review everything that Michael is signing, but generally over
Sort of
certain
a construction draw. It's not,
Right.
it's really making sure that all the materials that are on site you're paying for. It's not looking at a legal document. And it's a different thing.
Good evening, Housing Authority. Matt Ginsburg from Mountain Affordable Housing Development. If I might make a recommendation here, I think what you want to do is have a limited approval, right? And then unless it's in a budget. Because to effectively manage the project, we want to update, if you remember, we had this development agreement. There's a exhibit that has a budget in it, and we could even get more detailed than what was in there. But I think you want to give him authority to execute against the budget that is the project that is approved without a lot of extra management. And then anything that differs from that needs to come back to some level of approval or something like that. That is a suggestion, also very tried and true in the project development space, which a few other people may chime in on.
Thank you. That makes me feel a little bit better to do something like
That's
that.
what I do with my own.
So we just need to add a little verbiage.
If you want to, you can give general or specific authority. As far as contracts go and bond documents go, all those things come back before the housing authority. This isn't changing your normal process for how you approve contracts.
Right.
But if you did want to set some thresholds or some parameters, you can make it general or specific here as far as the delegation goes. If we're going to make it specific, I would suggest making sure though that it's broad enough that we don't have to bring, 5 more resolutions as things unfold with this project in particular. If you wanted to limit it to contracts related to St. Louis Landing project and the financing thereof, that's something that you could do. I don't know if that solves all of your issues, but part of this is your contracts go through the normal process. You have to have the same board authority to enter into contracts that you normally would. This is more so who has the ability to sign them and go through that. Because right now, the only one that has authority to sign on behalf of the authority is the chair.
So you're talking about bond and issuing financing. You're not talking about construction draws saying, okay, they spent $100,000 on windows.
We're focused on construction draws right now, and there's going to be an assignment of contracts. I'm just, as the process unfolds here, if there's additional contracts that need signed related to the financing. For instance, a paying agent agreement is a standard thing. You hire a bank to make sure your bond payments go. That's a contract that would be signed on behalf of the authority, but not necessarily related to construction, but it's necessary to the financing. Right now, the only one who's authorized to sign contracts on behalf of the authority is the chair. And so we would have to put that specific authority somewhere else. bond documents we can put it in the bond resolution, but it can be as broad or as general as you want to. My note is just, at least through this construction process, making sure for construction draws, assignments, things like that, that we're not getting too narrow to where, we can't get the payments made that need to be made.
Right. So, do you think Matt's thought is reasonable to say that, within, let's say, 10% of the budgeted amount, he's without approval from the mayor or something like that?
I feel like that might be too restrictive. We might have
Yeah.
to do, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, we can let him run with it.
Well, you're,
But if he runs with it, I'm telling you. Sorry, Michael.
you're,
I trust you,
so
but
you're the chairman of the housing authority.
Correct.
Could you not oversee the executive director and, I mean, if it's say greater than 10% of the budgeted amount, then you have to sign off on it or something.
take a look at it.
I'm okay with that. I just think that there's going to be a lot of fluctuation in prices, and so, do I need to come in every day to watch them sign a check or look at the budget? I don't,
Can you do it by email? Maybe.
maybe.
Okay.
Well, if I may.
Yeah.
We do have internal controls that have passed audit, and that I'm gonna keep an eye on Michael. We're not gonna give him a stack of blank checks and say, here you go. We do have the control of when we receive the invoice, it goes up to Public Works. Public Works has to approve. Then it comes down to us, and then we will write the check. If it's anything exceptionally out of the order, Becky brings it to my attention, and then I go get Michael, and then, we will take appropriate action.
Okay.
So no, we don't let Michael just go
Okay.
wild.
So our finance department directors plays that same role with this
That's my job.
housing authority. Okay.
So
Great.
for everybody,
Thank you. All
I'm the
right.
treasurer for all of that. So I've got to make sure that nobody's misbehaving,
Okay.
including me.
Okay. Good. Then
And
I'm okay with that.
Trustee Solis, if you wanted to add some language to clarify that in section 2, you could just add to the end there, the executive directors delegated this authority, basically to carry out in compliance or through the process set forth in the town's budgetary process, or your spending process, however you want to phrase it. Lorraine, however you would say that you would phrase that, but that's essentially it. We're going to follow town policies as far as how processes go.
Town internal control. We've got 'em.
So
That's good. You want to add that change?
Yeah, I think that's.
right, but how do we verb it? Do we need to pull that up and take a look at it? Probably.
I would just add, provided that such authority, so the executive director is hereby delegated the authority to enter into contracts and sign checks, drafts, and orders for the payment of money notes in the name of the authority, provided that any such action follows the town internal controls. Thank you.
Procedure.
Internal
Perfect.
controls.
Okay, you got that, Antoinette?
Okay.
Section 2, in the name of the authority, as long as it follows the town's internal controls.
Provided
budgetary-
that any such actions follow town's internal controls.
You good?
I'm good with that.
Want to make a motion?
Make a-
Sure. I'll, well, maybe. Make a motion to approve resolution 2025-09-01 with the change that we just discussed that our Sarah has made note of. You want to repeat it for me?
Provided that any such actions follow town's internal controls.
At the end of section 2.
Correct.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Move on to Fraser Housing Authority Resolution 2025-0902, authorizing the interim financing for St. Louis Landing. Dalton again.
Right. So resolution 2025-09-02 is the other side of the interim loan authorization. So the town board authorized the loan to be distributed. This is the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority agreeing to take out the loan. And so this is essentially what we call a parameters ordinance under the Colorado Supplemental Public Securities Act. You can set forth maximum parameters for what the obligation can be. And so you'll see that in section 3, we set forth the maximum principal amount of the loan, the maximum maturity date, and then that interest rate, which was based off option 2 as the maximum interest rate. And so this is the town agreeing to take the loan. Ultimately, it will be documented in the loan agreement, which was an attachment to both the town ordinance and this resolution. And that's where we'll set forth the final terms, basically saying it's a maximum of $5.4 million. It's drawdown loan to be distributed over time as determined by the town manager. And it sets forth the pledge of repayment from the housing authority. The pledge is essentially a full faith and credit pledge from the housing authority. So you'd pay it back with bond proceeds, project revenue, or MITEC funds. That's what's being pledged on the loan, but it's really just the other side of what we talked about in the Board of Trustees meeting.
So, quick question, the maturity date of December 31st, 2027, what happens if the project is delayed and it goes past?
Remember, this is more for the funding to get, funded by MITEC or Prop 123 or whatever. So the project itself doesn't matter. It's when this 5.4 million gets repaid to the town.
So yeah, that's correct. This is when the MITEC funds would be available to repay the loan. And so if the project's behind, bond proceeds are sitting in the bank. MIAP funds are sitting in the bank if they haven't been spent. So you would just pay down this loan using either MITEC or bond proceeds, assuming that everything's still on budget. But at that point, if project was behind and we're not on budget, you could reevaluate then whether you needed to extend the maturity or do anything with the loan. But this is based off when proceeds are available, not exactly when the project's done, because we're not waiting for project revenues to pay you back. This is tied to really when we anticipate the MITEC coming in. So otherwise, money sitting in the bank, projects putting along at its pace. If it takes 2-3 years, that's okay. The money's there for it. This is just waiting for, essentially, this is a bridge, and it's just taking us to when the funds are available. We wouldn't need it if otherwise those were on the front end.
Okay, I mean, I thought you said earlier that to maximize the MITEC
Yes.
funding, that the project needs to be completed or pretty close to be completed.
To
If
get the
it's-
MITEC funds, yes.
Right,
So
so
if
if it's delayed a year, is that going to hurt our chances of maximizing that grant?
No, we're getting close to completion.
no, it would just change the timing of when you're going to get your money back. And so from that perspective, we would probably just come back and amend the maturity date of this to extend it. If something's delayed and we're not at lease up basically to get the MITEC funds at some point in 2027, and instead that lingers over to 2028, then conceivably, yeah, we would just extend the maturity of this to get your funds back. The other piece I'll note is that if we move forward with the full $5.4 million of loan here, and let's say the MITEC funds don't end up coming in at 70 cents on the dollar, if it's 65 cents on the dollar or something like that, plus now we've got, interest owed on top of the 5.4 million. And if you want to recapture that, then that would have to come from either excess bond proceeds that weren't spent, so from like a contingency essentially, or it would be project revenues, which if those are not sufficient within the time period of 2027 to repay the interest that's due, then we could also extend it. Then the beauty here is you control both entities, so we have the ability to amend that maturity date if we need to make sure that you're getting your funds back and be made whole.
Sounds like a lot of uncertainty.
Sounds like a lot of trading paper.
But again, that's kind of the beauty of the option in this ordinance, is it just provides for a lot of flexibility.
Okay.
So this is sort of part of this whole thing. We're really focusing on the financing, and that seems to be your expertise, and that's what you're really here to talk about. But when we get to the point where we're approving construction loans, which from subcontractors, do we have a process in place where someone is going once a month to oversee the construction? And is that Paul? Who's going to be in charge of that piece?
So we're paying MAD to run this project for us. So they have construction inspectors that are looking at it. JVA is looking at everything. But we hired MAD to kind of do what Brad does for us on all of our internal capital projects. So that we are reviewing their invoices to verify that, yes, we've seen this sort of vertical construction happen, or we've seen this foundation go in. But we're paying them millions of dollars to run this project for us. So I'm holding them to do what we're paying them millions of dollars to do.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I mean, I think you're asking like a normal construction loan to a bank. They send somebody out to verify that you've done what you're supposed to have done to get another draw. So are you doing that yourselves?
No.
Are you,
Matt is.
they're mad. They're doing,
Mm. Oh, this map.
So I would say the construction, so the construction is being done by Big Valley, who is being managed by MAD in our place.
okay, so,
And then Brad is out there, we are looking at things, but nothing gets paid unless Brad or I approve an invoice to go to finance to then double check it again.
To the number checks.
I just want to make sure you're not policing yourself, right?
Good evening. This is Todd Moore with Mountain Affordable Housing Development. The Mud Horse. So Paul's correct. There are there is a management oversight that we provide, and we do visit the site every week. We have weekly meetings. We have people, the engineers and the architects we've engaged to review the work at site to make sure that it's, in accordance with the plans and specifications. So that's done. There are also inspections that are done by the building department to make sure that the work is done. And there are also additional inspections that are required by the project insurance providers, the carriers. And so they have a third party that also does that. So there's multiple layers of that.
Okay.
But in addition to what Lori had said and what Paul had said, there's also an internal review by us of the construction payment applications. We review those very carefully, make sure that what's being billed is in accordance with what the work is that's been put in place, and that they're mathematically correct and the work is performed, and so that there are 3 layers there instead of just 2. So
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-0902.
Can I jump in real quick?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Rob with Big Valley Construction. I would just like to add from that whole approval process. I understand the checks and balances that everybody needs to do, but we also need to make sure that we can streamline this and that we can get funds available to pay our subcontractors, because Big Valley's not a bank, and unfortunately up here with the smaller subcontract base that we use, these guys can't go 60 days and vote their payroll and vote their materials. So I think our contract reads 30 days, 28 or 30 days. So by the time, we turn in a bill, MAD reviews it, it goes to Public Works turn it in. And, I would just ask that everybody's cautious of that, because it is very hard to get workers to show up, especially when there's 6 foot of snow and it's freezing cold and we can't pay our subs and they can't pay their employees. So I just ask everybody to be cautious. I know there's got to be checks and balances, but there's nothing better that makes subcontractors show up and do the work and keep jobs on schedules when they're getting paid on time and not waiting 60 days for their money. So I just like to add that as well.
No,
Good, thank you. Good reminder.
go for it. I made a resolution, didn't I?
Felt like you were halfway through it.
I'll make it again, I guess. The resolution, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-0902, approving, let me see, a housing authority interim to occur interim loan from the town of Fraser, authorizing the form of the loan and other details in connection.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to Fraser Housing Authority Resolution 2025-0903, supporting application and award of Colorado Middle Income Housing Tax Credits for St. Louis Landing. Sarah.
So as we've updated the board in the past, MAD, Mountain Affordable Housing Development, on behalf of the town of Fraser, did apply for Colorado's middle income housing tax credits. This is a state level housing tax credit program that was introduced in Colorado following the passage of House Bill 24-1316, designed to support the creation of affordable rental housing for households earning between 80 and 120% of area median income and up to 140% in rural resort counties. So this resolution is just confirming support of that application and award by the Fraser Housing Authority. St. Louis Landing was one of 3 developments that was selected by the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority to receive an inaugural MyTech award, entitling the project. And I apologize, this should read, once tax credits are sold to a successful state tax credit of $1,542,722 each year for 5 years, with an expected total value to the project of approximately $5.4 million. Again, that final amount will be determined upon sale of the tax credits, but this resolution is just stating support of the Fraser Housing Authority to continue with this process.
Great.
Any questions?
No brainer, huh? I'll make a motion to approve Housing Authority Resolution 2025-0903.
Second.
But with the changes that you made, can you repeat that so we can know where it goes exactly?
Yes. So it's in the whereas as well as down at the bottom under the actual resolution.
Okay, so
But it should read, if we take out the if underwriting and final approval are successful, and add upon sale to a tax credit investor. That would be more properly worded.
successful. Okay, with the change that Sarah just clarified.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right.
Move to close the Housing Authority.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We're back with the Fraser regular town board meeting. Discussion possible action regarding Fraser Public Works Facility Board presentation, owner costs, Paul, D2C and BVC.
Hey,
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Maddie's escaping. Yeah. Who would be a good one to ask? Now that we have this commitment.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So much better it is.
She cut her wrist. She's gonna wear that. Her face.
Yeah.
Ones that are long. And I go.
Oh, here, here.
Just hitting everything. Okay, that'd be good.
It is presentation mode, yeah. Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. We're here with D2C Architects, and we have Big Valley Construction to talk about the 30% schematic design that Big Valley did a cost estimate on. So they're going to kind of go through this presentation. You've seen some of it, but this shows the full renderings of what everything will look like on the site. And then we have Big Valley here to kind of talk through that cost estimate that was included. And then before we move forward with any, COP bonding, I want everybody to see everything. And then the next step from here would be to enter into contract to go to 100% CDs, and then go to RFP for a CMAR, so constructive manager at risk, or something where we're working with a builder as we finalize everything to make sure everything is buildable and most cost effective. So I'll turn it over to Brian with D2C. Do it.
Thanks, Paul. Good evening, trustees and mayor. Brian Duggan, D2C Architects. I'm a principal project architect. I'm going to let Chris, he's one of the lead designers for our firm, work through this. Just to note, D2C, this is one of our specialties, is public works, maintenance, campuses, and facilities. We're going to walk through specifically the design for the town of Fraser, and then we've also brought a few materials just to give you a little more idea of what some of the facilities and interiors may look like as we proceed from the schematic design phase. We also, I think, maybe have online another, our civil engineer from Kimley Horn, Cody Offchus, and if there's any site questions, he'll be able to answer those as well. So with that, I'll kind of turn it over to Chris, and we look forward to kind of showing you where we're at.
Mayor, Board of Trustees, thanks for having us. I'm Chris with D2C Architects. We shared this packet with you last week, so you guys kind of got a little overview of everything so far. This first slide, kind of jump into it, is kind of a snapshot of the site within the parcel boundaries and how each building kind of lays out within the site. But on this slide, this next slide is actually not in your packet that you saw. This is from our civil engineer. This kind of encompasses the site and then all the improvements along County Road 72 that is also part of this project. And part of this pricing exercise. A couple of things is through this 30% schematic design, our civil engineer, we really didn't notice anything either atypical or exceptional regarding the site, which is nice because once we move to the next phase of this project and get into design development, get in and go into the planning department, we don't foresee any variances needed. And with planning, so that's nice. We were able to maintain all of our site screening by keeping all the existing berms around the site, the west side along 72, along the north perimeter of the property next to the cemetery, and the east side of the property adjacent to Elk Creek and St. Louis Landing. This next site is the architectural site plan that kind of shows the same improvements for the road, but also delineates the blue is the site in itself, and it kind of segregates from the road improvements, which is the maroon. And kind of it shows how it's kind of adjacent to a lot of the other landmarks around, like the Sledding Hill, the Drop, and Murdoch's, and all the other. Kind of gives you a better understanding of where it lives on the site with the map. This is the architectural site plan, kind of zoomed in view of the site. Last time we showed this, we let y'all know that we lost that 37 feet of the north property due to that road improvements along by the cemetery back in 2018 and the right-of-way improvements. So we lost that 37 feet of property. Last time we were here, we thought we were going to have to reshift the site a little bit and lose some parking, but through working with Paul and his public works team, we were able to reallocate some over design spaces within the maintenance building and reallocate those to other buildings and kind of keep the site as it is, and not lose any building square footages and not really lose any parking. So we were able to kind of make everything and pinch everything down. And still keep all of our turning radiuses and site circulation that we had needed, especially for the fire department.
Amazing. I'm amazed.
Yeah, we just had to sharpen it, kind of get back in there a little bit. Another thing on this that was different than the last time is we were under the impression the existing utilities were coming in kind of in the north of the site, but it's all of everything's to the south, so that's another little key change. This next slide is not in the original board packet. This is kind of a snapshot of what you would see coming down 72 from the sledding hill, getting into the site, turning into that north entrance. So the building on your left is the heated storage and greenhouse building, and then the main admin portion of the two-story admin building in the main view.
Add on to that, we really wanted to focus on maintaining that existing berm, the landscape, irrigate, and the fence that are already there, to make sure we have a pleasing front door to all the, houses that are to the south of us are going to be driving by this facility up this hill. We want to have a nice image from the town along 72.
This is kind of gives you a snapshot of what the admin building would look like and all the amenities within the admin building and the maintenance building and shop maintenance. There's two different types of construction on this building. The administration portion of the building is a conventional steel framing with metal studs. And then the rest of the building is all pre-engineered metal building. Next is the greenhouse, excuse me, with the heated storage. This is two different types of construction as well. The greenhouse will work directly with a prefabricated greenhouse manufacturer that specializes in greenhouse design to help build that and kind of marry it with the pre-engineered metal building of the heated storage.
I'm sorry, maybe I missed the last meeting, but what are we growing in our greenhouse? Why do we need a greenhouse? Is this common?
To support all of our flowers and plants.
So greenhouse has been envisioned since the last time we looked at doing a public works facility. Our gardeners currently buy a lot of stuff from Cold Spring that they could grow themselves. And I'm not sure if you, in the spring, we're taking up all the parking out here as we put all the plants and cover them with tarps every night, uncover them. And this will give them the ability to handle that in-house and not have to store everything outside.
So it's flowers.
So all the flowers, everything we do in the medians, all of our baskets, all of the work that the gardeners do, they would be utilizing this in the start, as soon as it warms up, to start growing plants from seed and flowers from seed, so that we're not buying everything. We could see it.
Are we gonna have to hire another gardener to do that? I think we have one full time, right?
No, we have two,
Like winter?
three. They move the streets and do snow during the summer, but we have at least 3 full time, and then we hire the seasonal gardeners every summer. But the greenhouse was envisioned, it was in the last plan, so we continued with it.
So that view is just a little odd. Are there two separate buildings there?
It's
And the roof?
It's a conjoined building.
So what happens with the snow in between? And
So the building to the left actually has just a single slope that's shedding snow away from the apron in front of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
greenhouse has, the way they're designed is they have like an internal gutter system. Kind of weird even at this elevation, but if you go look at Cold Springs, I think they're 3 or 4 if you count the old greenhouse. And they just have a huge gutter on the end. So they do collect the snow in the middle peak. We did talk to the manufacturer about a single peak in the middle.
Yeah.
That's not ideal for their construction type. It actually would beef up the structure and block.
So what's the snow load on something like that?
I don't know that offhand.
That'd be something we'd have to take a hard look at later, because
they are designed to handle. They can still beef up the structural members within the building.
Okay.
They just don't want to go to the bigger peak because they would need large steel instead of their kit of parts, and then they would block the translucent panels. You'd actually lose the daylight factor of the greenhouse. So you start going backward. I think the only other thing we could do is we could separate the buildings, but it keeps the efficiency of all the basket or all the trays in the middle are on a sliding track. So the bigger the volume, the more efficient the space. It's kind of how it works out.
So on the, where your cursor is,
That's the wall that delineates the greenhouse for the front from the heated storage.
from the heated storage,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. So as we're gonna, so the heated storage on that is the dark areas. How big is that greenhouse? What's the square footage on that?
2,500 feet. So right-
50 by
Oh,
50.
yeah, I can.
So 2,500 square feet.
Okay. The,
This is what's,
I'm trying to think about, I worked out at Cold Springs
okay, so you know.
and we rented that back upper greenhouse for Winter Park Resort. And I think it's 20 foot wide and maybe 60 feet long, and we used half of it. So I don't know.
Right.
I'm just wondering if that's overkill on the size.
I will say they actually requested twice this size. So
Did
we
they?
cut it in half?
And you cut it back.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Yeah.
not only could we not fit
Okay.
it, but because of cost parameters, I think one difference between putting them on the ground out here and having them in a building is they will be able to be more efficient with the space they use.
So is there space outside to harden up the plants?
There is in
Yeah.
front of, yeah.
Okay.
No,
There's still a staging area and to the south of that where they can prepare, to take the baskets or the flowers. to
Okay.
Downtown.
so there's a gravel area
Okay.
here to the east. I don't know if you can see my cursor, and then also
Okay.
in front of the building, there's a 10-foot apron plus all this is.
real nice.
It's not
Okay.
asphalt, it's gravel. We're
Good.
just showing it because we're utilizing that for gravel parking, but it can also be utilized for the staging and the hardening
Okay,
of the
good.
plants.
Alrighty.
The next building on the site is the salt barn and fuel island. This is for, this is salt storage that replaces the one right out here. And kind of gives an updated to the fuel island for the diesel and unleaded fueling for all the fleet vehicles. And then also provides a trash enclosure. That's the small structure you see in the image to the right. Is just a trash enclosure for 2 5-yard dumpsters. And
Okay. I need to see it.
and then the last building is a vehicle cold storage building with 5 bays. These bays are deep enough and wide enough to fit any size vehicle the Public Works fleet has, from their road graders to their snow plows, water trucks, and etc. The space to the north of the building is for pipe storage for the various types of pipes that the water department uses for the various projects, and then some additional storage to the south of the building as well.
Are there going to be garage doors on this?
No, sir, these are open. There's a 3-sided bay. There's open to the elements. That's why it's a cold storage. So there's no heating. It's just lighting in there and very, very minimal.
Is it possible
just
to add?
Sorry.
Sorry. Is it possible to add garage doors at some point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, if snow drift in there is a concern, we could either do a garage door, even like what's out here on the salt barn, the canvas
Mhm.
doors, just to keep snow from blowing in there.
Yeah, or to retrofit for future, more maintenance or warm storage. This is another pre-engineered steel structure, so we're just saving some money by not skinning that side, not putting in the higher electricity or plumbing. It's just going to have lights, and that's it. And we'll show you an example of one we just completed that's probably a similar scale. Here a few slides.
So are you thinking that down the road, we might want to turn it into something else?
It's not anticipated to need it for a long time for Public Works to add, but it is a nice to have. And the way we've set up the campus, it could easily become more warm bay
So
storage.
do you need to bring in utilities just underground so
So
they're there?
Right, we could either stub them in nearby, or the way the utilities are running through the site, we can branch off later and upsize the service.
I would say the idea here is to get all of the loaders that sit up at 6W all summer without any cover, or anything that's just sitting behind in the alley during the winter. Those things are stored in here. They don't need to be heated because we're not constantly using them, not trying to start them every day. They are under our cover, aren't just getting just tons of snow, and sun exposure, and rusting. That was the idea. There's cold storage, get things under cover that are currently just stored behind sheds all winter.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna pull it. You wanna zoom into that? It's two spots.
And then just a little bit, it's like cost estimator, so it's like, so you can't read it.
Yep, yeah, that's not true.
I-
Yes, yes. My name's Davis with Big Valley Construction, and we got brought on and we're happy to help with the cost estimating with the design team. So we're not here as Big Valley trying to tell you what this building will cost and get started. We're just here to kind of provide an estimate of probable construction costs based on the schematic design that
Thank you.
D2C has done so far. We usually don't put those numbers up. Everyone just goes right to the numbers and wants to ask questions about it. But it's important to give a little bit of background on how we approached it. So what we included is basically a high level summary of an estimate. It's easier to digest in a setting like this. We didn't square foot cost this or just estimate it. We thought it was important to go to the market and get a complete estimate. So that's what we've done. We've got 30 pages of estimate detail here. If anyone likes to look through that stuff like I do. But we did get some feedback from the trade partners and subcontractors, and we also did a lot of quantity takeoffs. Schematic design. You've got the major building elements. You don't have all the details there, and trade partners and subcontractors are pretty literal. They're black and white when they're estimating. So at this stage in design, we typically provide quantity estimates and kind of fill in the gray space with the trade partners. So this estimate represents that. So I'll kind of walk through some of the details of it, kind of starting at the top. So that first section is the direct building costs. That's basically, think about all the work. That's the construction of the building, the vertical construction, the site work, everything to make that building happen. So it's kind of broken into a few different buckets there. That first bucket is what we would anticipate for general conditions and requirements. So the difference between the conditions and the requirements. General conditions is a contractor's project staff assigned to that project, the superintendent, the project manager, the engineers on site, basically everything to support the construction of the building related to that project team. And the general requirements are lumped into that as well. Think of that as everything associated with construction that's not a permanent building material. So fencing, temporary access roads, erosion control, that kind of thing. So working from there, existing conditions, that's really just starting at the site and getting a survey control and getting that dialed in. That's a small cost. But the rest of these buckets here, building structure, that's your administration building. That's basically the foundations, the framing components, the walls, everything to make that structure. I'll skip a couple lines. That number 6 is 5 and 6 are also related to the administration, your main building there that's stick built, right? It's not a metal building. So those numbers together is the estimated cost along with the MEP down at the bottom. And then broken out in the middle there, the pre-engineered metal buildings, so that's your cold storage, the other storage buildings that are not the greenhouse and not in the administration building, if that makes sense. That next section there, site preparation and improvements, that's just what it says. So that's site work, site development, paving, curb and gutter, sidewalks, planting, street lighting, all of that kind of thing. The next number there, that 888,000 number, we broke that out separately. It is part of the site prep scope, but that is the paving of County Road 72. So basically that's the asphalt paving all the way from the project site down basically under the bridge, like that diagram was showing. So.
Is that a road that Fraser owns already, or we're
We
gonna
were trading.
acquire it? I mean, who's responsible for it?
I
Isn't
don't
that a
know.
Forest
Oh.
Service road?
We're trading.
Currently, it's a county road, but we are working with the county to acquire that piece or start maintaining that piece in a swap to acquire the right of way to the west of the drop. That is currently not being used where County Road 72 used to go. Looking to do that, but that's the idea, is that we would pave it from the point of curvature going past the public works facility down. Is the idea is to get that paved.
And then it would be deeded to the town, or?
We would just do a swap. Yeah. We've been in conversations with Chris at the county on getting that. Other priorities.
And you know the piece we're talking about for us getting back? Yeah. But the road used to go straight up the hill and then they curved it around. So we would be able to expand the drop to the west. someday by being whatever it is, they sign us that land or gift us that land.
I don't know. On that piece of property.
What? Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Any more questions on the, we'll get into the indirects, but anything on the direct construction of the building? I'm just a construction guy. My math's a lot easier than the previous guys. We're just basically counting widgets here. All right, indirect. So this is another bucket. So this is everything aside from general conditions that you would typically see separate. So bonds, insurance, and fees. So that's exactly what it says. So as a government entity, you'll probably be required to, the contractor would provide a payment performance bond. So that would be a cost, as well as builder's risk insurance, either general liability insurance or a wrap up or some other product to provide liability insurance for the project. So that's kind of what that cost bucket is there. And then the next two are kind of, they're both more or less a contingency, but number 12, there's what we'd call at this stage, a design and construction contingency. So typically we'd recommend about 5% at this level of design. And basically, that's for, bidding errors or costs going up between one round of design versus the other, and kind of allows you to kind of soften that, that market fluctuation as you go through the different pricing rounds. And then once you get closer to construction, you typically see that lowered to, 2% or something like that to go into construction. That makes sense. And then item 13, that's the market has done some crazy things lately. A lot of it kind of goes up, goes back down, but essentially we feel, 0.75% a month is a safe escalation buffer as you get closer and closer to a start. So that's basically 6 months is what we've put in there. And obviously that's not a construction cost, right? That goes away once you get to a final contract construction amount. But any thoughts on that? Either way, I can do it. Yeah, cool. So the next couple, we recommended a few allowances for equipment. So this is really up in the air. I think the heated pressure washer system, the HOTZ, and the 4 vehicle lifts and the air compressor were called out pretty specifically. So we went ahead and put some prices to those based on what we're seeing on other projects with similar equipment. Number 4, that's essentially a miscellaneous budget. D2C has done quite a few of these. They showed some examples and as if we and you could spend a third of that, you could spend triple that, right? It just depends on what kind of equipment you want to put into the building, what your needs are with your different shop departments within the public works. But that's basically an allowance, that would be used to offset everything that's not part of the building. Makes sense. And then the last one there, talking to D2C, we just wanted to put that on there. That's not a contractor cost. And at this point, it's just basically a percentage, 20%. But what that would be is, you'll bring in a contractor, you bring on a designer, but there's a lot of other anticipated owner costs. So permit fees, you guys may be waived onto that, in part or in the whole. Utility fees, impact fees, and then the big one is special inspections. So geotechnical report, continuous construction inspections, and all the various other type of consultants that the owner would typically bring on directly.
So what's the total?
29.467 for the building.
For the whole project?
For the owner. Depends on how you want to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, as a contractor, I think
All
I would
right.
tell you it's that 29.4 million based on
Gotcha.
the design you got, but that
Okay.
includes those contingencies.
I think we just wanted to outline, a total project budget. A
Mhm.
lot of times it gets tricky. We stand up here as architects or contractors and say your cost. We always think about the direct cost, like Davis is talking about, because that's what that construction contract will be for. But you, the town, have other costs for development,
Mhm.
design fees, inspection fees, furniture, IT, computers, all that stuff that's not going to be your contractor. And that's why we wanted to show what we call the soft cost, the owner project costs, and we'll help dial that in with the town. We usually see 15 to 25%. So we picked right in the middle for now, for talking purposes, on that owner project costs. And then the equipment costs, sometimes that gets built directly in and we hand that over to the contractor to manage because they're connecting parts and pieces of equipment. Or sometimes it's owner's equipment. Like we're going to go through the shop with Jeff and say, what are we bringing over, Jeff? Is there any good lifts or compressors or tools and things like that. And then we'll try to lower that sort of equipment budget if we can. But we like to start with a somewhat conservative approach when we're this early in the design. And then we give you the options and build those options into the budget or into the final construction costs.
So the 20% is what the town is gonna put in and 80% is gonna be covered by bond sales, or what is the balance? Who's covering the balance, I guess?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
So the 2946 is where we would talk about getting the COPs, like we talked about at the board retreat, to fund that, and you have the 3-year timeline to get it done. The soft costs down there are things that they're unknowns. How much stuff are we taking with us? Well, pretty much anything over there in the shop is going to go with us, but there are no vehicle lifts currently, so we can only do very limited things that we send things to Denver for that if we had a lift we can do. So and the air compressor, obviously we would move one air compressor over, but we probably need a second. So it's those sort of things. Furniture, what kind of furniture we're going to get with. And that 20% also includes the flex space that isn't needed. So we wouldn't be furnishing that. That would just stay flex space until we're at a point when the town is fully built out right now and we have those 4 more employees, that's where we're starting to put those people. But the soft costs, we've already expended some of those soft costs to this point with D2C, with Merrick, with Kimley Horn. We've already paid for some geotechnical work on the site and along 72. So some of those costs have already been expended. Our D2C costs and our merit costs on the design so far are reimbursable through a grant. So there are some things in here that we've already paid for, but the big thing is that we're at that 29 to get it built.
I'm sorry, we've lost, where are you referring to soft cost?
The bottom 5.8, that 20%.
So that's not 20% of the construction cost,
That's just 20% of that 3 million, that 30 million total.
okay, so it is. So
But it's not something we would want to go, those costs are not something we'd want to go get a COP on and pay for. Those are things that, as we talked about before, when we get that money back from MyTech to repay the 5.4 million we're expending there, if we get that back in 27, these are costs that would start being incurred in the fall, winter of 27 when you're trying to move in. So it's the kind of those costs that you wouldn't want to go out and get a loan for to buy furniture per se. You want the loan for the big.
So where's
big piece.
the rest of the money coming from, to my
It's all
question?
from COP. Certificates of participation is the thought. The soft cost would be general fund.
Okay.
And I think that when the time comes, we need to get with our team again that were here earlier, really clarify that.
Yeah.
And budget season
It's a big
is
nut.
coming up. It's
Yeah.
hot, and just having committed that 5 million of our general fund.
So that's what
But
I was
this
getting
is
to,
great.
that
That's-
this would be, when everybody was talking about it being refunded in 27, this project, best case scenario would be fall of 27 moving in, more likely
Okay.
winter, spring of 28.
Okay, good.
So-
We've got some time to get
Yeah,
that.
just
money
because
together.
of where we are and trying to get this out to an RFP in the next 2 months to get a
Gotcha.
contractor type, to start in the spring. But again, we're stuck with when we have the conversation about COPs, if those don't close till January, I think that's 2 months later than what we talked about at the board retreat. So things are just slow, and then it just pushes everything back. But some of those
We'll have a
costs-
presentation with the board in the near future about certificates of participation, and we'd have legal counsel hired specifically to help manage that, similar to what Dalton is doing with the bonds for St. Louis Landing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the soft
Okay.
cost includes the architect. Does it include the
it's all the
fee
design.
and the fee to the contractor, or is that in the,
The contractor fee is up in that, the
Okay.
29.4.
okay,
Which hopefully, as we get farther along in design, some of these things may change because right now they're based on 30% plans. They don't have a full set of plans to go by. But one thing I think we've already identified when we got this when we talked a week and a half ago, there's already some VE things we can do just by changing the type of glass that we're doing there. Instead of paying for the premium, get the one that has a 25-year lifespan and change the film instead of, a lifetime type deal. So we've already approached some of the VE items. But as Brian said, there was a lot of requests that when we did the interviews that I was like, no, we can't do that. No, that doesn't make sense. Let's go with the small greenhouse. They don't even have one now. But some of the things are, heated storage right now. We take up storage bays to store things that you would like cold patch, things like that we need during the winter that you can't let sit outside.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things that heated storage is going to give us, opening up bays and areas. The heated storage also has a meter test bench, which we don't currently have for the water department. So they can't test the meter to see if it's bad. We just have to assume it's bad if it's not working. So a lot of things that we're looking to be more efficient in public works services as well by giving them the things that they need that they haven't had for the last 30 years or so.
Okay, more to
Okay.
come.
In closing, just not to get, I'd like to go back to the full screen. Okay, so just in closing, we've also put together just a little bit of eye candy for just how the spaces could start to feel. So this is sort of some of the design thought starters we work with Paul and his team, for nice working spaces, nice current but not over the top materials and finishes for admin spaces. The next slide's really showing these are a bunch of D2C projects of similar scale or functionality. So you can see a fuel canopy there, sort of upper top, upper middle. Upper left is an admin portion and a maintenance bay that's a similar size and scale. Going to the right, there's one of those open storage, cold storage buildings, just showing some snow plows stored there, just lighting. Maintenance bay upper right. Then working down that right side, that's just a mezzanine looking down into a maintenance bay. There's a couple salt buildings that are similar size, but one's a little fancier than the other. We may be somewhere sort of in between, but we are thinking about that cover and that canopy, as Chris noted, to shed the snow over the fuel area and not onto individuals fueling their vehicles.
Good idea.
Greenhouse, this is a greenhouse we did for the city of Westminster, bottom left. Pre-manufactured structure similar to Cold Springs. That's a picture of the flowers inside one of the finished photos. A couple admin shots. That's Greenwood Village, bottom right. And then just plethora of kind of our maintenance bays. And this is really where that equipment comes in. We always design for you to be able to fully build out. If you can't afford the lifts day one, or you want to scale back on the expenditure on things like equipment, we need to build the space so that you can grow into it. Your town is coming from really poor conditions. It's not like we're just able to move them or upgrade, otherwise you'd be looking at a renovation project. It's a colossal leap really to where the industry standard should be for a facility or functions you guys do as a town. And so we need to work our way into that and grow into that. If the budgets are great, and COPs pass and you can get everything, that's always nice. But we as designers have to think about not cutting ourselves short on how we could build out the facility. And with that, I'll just thank you. And
I have a question on the layout when I'm looking at these. So you can drive from one entrance out the other
correct.
entrance.
It
It
has
just
the
doesn't show well on these drawings or
best one.
that, yeah, you can work your way around.
Well, she's talking about the site. Let's start with the site.
Oh, the site, okay.
You can, in fact, one-way circulation, especially with heavy duty vehicles, is always a priority.
Okay.
And so we're afforded really almost a light vehicle admin entrance on the north side, which will be the first entrance everyone arrives at.
Okay.
And then the heavy duty trucks know they should go down to the second entrance. And they're
Okay.
making left turns, which is the safer turn for guys driving large vehicles from a blind spot perspective. They can do their work with the salt. They can refuel. The maintenance bays are down on that end. We have
Okay.
large material bins down here where they have sand and gravel, and sometimes it's asphalt, things like that. All that lives down here on the south end of the site. So this is really this sort of more large vehicle active space.
But where are they connected?
And then they connect right through. I don't know if you can see my cursor because it's
Yeah,
small,
I can.
but it's going to come up and around
You've got it
the
great.
wash bay.
Gotcha.
And then these bays here are these are drive-through.
Perfect. I was
maintenance
wondering about
bays.
that. Yep.
Yeah. it's
Entrance
one of-
on both sides.
Right. One of the biggest things you don't have right now is the ability to safely bring a vehicle through a bay.
Mhm.
Say you had a trailer on there.
Yeah.
Bad news, right? Backing in a trailer. So that's one thing that was important. And it was challenging with the site because it's really skinny, long and narrow.
Mhm.
It's really similar to the site Chris and I just finished for E470.
Huh.
So we had a lot of lessons learned on how to circulate the traffic. The other thing that is actually nice about the narrowness of the site is those cold storage bays, even though they're open faced, The other building is actually blocking the wind coming from the west. And so we're kind of creating a microclimate within the campus between buildings where the snow will most likely drift with wind, will actually drift over the backside of that cold storage building and down the hill. So that's something that was intentional and also just kind of a factor of how the site is skinny in that middle piece.
All right, great.
And these are the utilities that we talked about. We could branch off of for that building if we needed to add water, gas, or electricity.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I like this is probably see. You can really tell. Gosh, cool. All right. Well, thank you. All right. Good work.
Yeah. That's good.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
You didn't have to try to buy extra land off the cemetery.
Nope, we didn't have to go back to the cemetery.
We'll say if, I know there's been talk of approaching the cemetery to get that 37 feet back. That would just be additional gravel storage. We wouldn't shift the buildings at this point. Everything's gonna stay where it is. And it could be additional storage or parking. Or for plants, whatever we
Okay.
need back there, but it wouldn't be, we're not moving the buildings. It's
Gotcha.
Too much work.
Okay.
Especially when we're able to fit it within our agreement with there.
Okay.
Which is what I always wanted to ensure we stay with.
Great. Okay, thanks for the presentation, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Resolution 2025-0901, authorizing town manager to sign bike park sponsorship agreements and naming the bike park.
Do you guys want to leave? You can. You don't have to stay. You've been here a very long time.
This is the most fun part.
You know, love it, but you
See, we're
know,
getting to the funner.
don't feel
fun-
obligated.
more
It's
fun
been a
items.
long evening for you.
Lighter item.
Thank you all. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your feedback. I mean, you could always listen in on the way home, just to like, we're still doing our jobs. All right, you guys take care. Safe trip. Nice to see you. All right, sorry.
Nope, thank you, Katie. Sarah Catanzarite, Assistant Town Manager. This next agenda item has two parts. One is the resolution number 2025-0901, a resolution authorizing the town manager to enter into contracts with Fraser Bike Park sponsors. So as previously discussed as part of our kind of capital stack for the bike park, we started the project with about 900,000 lined up and needed approximately $1 million to kind of complete the project in full. So we have this summer been going after sponsors. Thus far, we've lined two up. The one would be Mountain Parks Electric and Guzman Energy, who are interested in being our presenting sponsor. So they would be the marquee sponsor. The contract is set for 3 years. We would start promoting them upon completion of the bike park or this fall, but we would count the 3 years beginning in January to give them full 3 years of the bike park actually being open. So to kind of run through that third season. We're looking at likely putting that marquee sponsor on the wall ride, which we believe should be somewhat visible from the highway and kind of provide the coolest feature and the most space to put up their logo. So it would be the Fraser Bike Park presented by and their logos. We'd also include mentions of them in social media, on our website, on the bike park kind of signs and kiosks. So I would anticipate that their names and logos on that signage would remain in place until we had to replace the signage. But that marquee sponsorship on the wall ride would expire after 3 years, at which time we would solicit new marquee sponsors. But they would be paying $25,000 a year for the next 3 years. The Rendezvous Foundation has signed on as a Trailblazer sponsor. So they're giving $25,000 one time, and that allows them to have their name and logo on a bike park feature for the next 3 years, at
Great.
which time they'd have the opportunity to renew that. So we will continue to go after sponsorships. I don't see any problem with sponsors continuing to sign on at least through next year, if not forever. We're going to have ongoing maintenance cost. Trestle has signed on to provide an employee for that maintenance, but if we wanted to replace the feature and make an enhancement, we also, during budget season, we'll be talking about the parking lot looking to build that next year, and that will have a hefty price tag. I don't know that we can be too successful going after grant funds specifically for a parking lot. It's not a very sexy item. So I think that's likely coming out of the town budget. But those are the type of things that these sponsorship dollars could help pay for if they're not received this year and are received next year in the future. So this resolution authorizes Michael to sign the sponsorship contracts with the two sponsors we have, as well as future sponsors, with the idea that we would continue to update the board, but would need to bring back new resolutions for every sponsor that signs on.
Okay.
So if you'd like, we can address the resolution first, and then we can talk about naming, or we can talk about naming and then come back to the resolution.
First resolution.
Resolution first.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-0901, authorizing town manager to enter into contracts with Fraser Bike Park sponsors.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Great. So next up, and we're just looking for a motion here, is whether or not the board would like to continue to just refer to the bike park as the Fraser Bike Park. That would be in line with what a lot of community bike parks do. Frisco has their adventure park, but it's basically the Frisco Adventure Park, the Frisco Bike Park. In Denver, there's a Ruby Hill Bike Park that's in the Ruby Hill neighborhood. Fruta has a Fruta Bike Park. Golden has a Golden Bike Park. There are some communities that have chosen different names. Boulder has the Valmont Bike Park. I looked it up today. That is based on the area that it sits on, was the Valmont Butte. It was a formal industrial site. Grand Junction has a bike park referred to as the Lunch Loop Bike Park. Buena Vista has one called the Junkyard Bike Park. So I really think it could go either way. The Fraser Bike Park is simple, exactly what we're talking about. A few members of our bike park kind of partner and stakeholder group recommended sticking with that, I think largely for simplicity.
Plus,
But-
you already have the signs made up.
well, we do have those. I think we could keep the flags. I think we could keep those even if we called it something else.
Okay,
But if the board did want to call it something else, Sarah Wick did put out a call on Facebook and Instagram just
Bunch
to
of
let the
names.
public weigh in on
Fun.
ideas. We also asked the partner and stakeholder group. So we have provided everything that we had received as of last Wednesday. I'm realizing I failed to double check it today to see if there were any late submissions. But just wanted to open it up to the board with what you all wanted to do with that.
Some of the names are really fun, but I think if someone's searching about a bike park in Fraser, if it says Fraser, if it's the title of Fraser Bike Park, it's going to be really easy to pull up.
Agreed.
I think
Doing
keep it.
searches. So
But could we name different sections of it for other things? There are different sections within the bike park that we could name.
maybe name one the ice box.
Like
Or- I like the railer.
Or is there a box feature?
Yeah. That's, you're losing sponsorship.
Yeah, that's where I was going with it. But
And isn't there a water tower feature?
Yes, we are looking into water towers. The initial estimates I've gotten for, I think, what was somewhat being pictured in at least some folks' heads, are pretty expensive. So we may
don't
be
need a lot.
toning that idea down. Because originally we were thinking that potentially we could put our marquee sponsor up on the water tower along with, Fraser and our logo. I don't know that we'll end up with the water tower that iconic and of that size. Estimates, and again, we could continue looking at different companies.
Maybe eventually.
But yeah, initial estimates
What are
I
we
got
talking
were
about?
150 to 190,000.
Yeah.
And that was for something larger than what we need, and I think would really be ideal for this space. But for the smaller water tower, they said you probably wouldn't have that visibility from Highway 40, and we were still probably talking 80 to 90,000. So we'll continue searching for options and hopefully have something up there that serves that purpose by next spring. But we may do something more homegrown.
So I have a question about the surface. As we're driving by now looking at it, is it a fine gravel surface?
they're putting asphalt down.
They're in the
Or is it
process of
whole
asphalting the
thing?
pump track
Right.
right now, and then the lips of the jump.
Okay.
So yeah, it is cool if you want to drive by and check it out. They started
Yeah.
a couple days ago, and it looks like they've got at least a few days left.
Okay. So I
Um,
was just wondering, but like with all the rolly features and the stuff that you see so visible, is that a sand gravel? No, it's not. The pump track is
That's what
asphalt.
you can see. It's
That's the third track.
Huh?
down now. I went
Okay.
down there today.
All right. Oh, well, good.
So what you
Okay.
can see from the road is being asphalted.
That's cool. Huh,
Yeah, there will be dirt jumps.
yeah. Okay.
And I think a lot of the
Yes.
skills features that like that'll just be a dirt and then it'll be the feature, you know, made out of wood or
I
whatever.
wonder if it's something that we could just put some kind of sealant on to help keep it as is, but
They're pretty good
Good.
at it, I think.
awesome.
And
Yeah,
they do obviously
looking
make
awesome.
every spring.
It's
So
exciting.
yeah, and I think just with the reality of freeze thaw cycles up here, similar to the asphalt on our roads, we are anticipating that there may be some cracking that has to be repaired from
Oh,
time
yeah.
to time, but
Absolutely. Yeah, freeze thaw, shifts, all that stuff.
what
Okay.
do you guys think of the Fraser Flow bike park? Just
Um,
adding the extra word.
No.
No? No.
Fraser Bike Park.
Okay.
I mean, do we?
We hope the Fraser keeps flowing, but you never know. On kind of a negative note.
The Fraser River Biking Authority.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah,
I like the Fraser.
some of the names are really cute and I appreciate everybody kicking in on it, but just for simplicity and people able to find it if they go to do searches. I'm up for Fraser Bike Park. Anybody else?
I don't think we have a.
Katie, what's your opinion?
Unanimous.
The Fraser Bike Park too.
Okay.
I'm usually all about naming stuff, but I like the Fraser.
Yeah. It's not Edna's Fraser Bike Park. Edna's not a biker.
I will throw out this actually, I don't think is on the list. Does seem to be somewhat of movement with some of these to call them like wheels parks so
No.
that they are open to other wheeled devices.
Uh,
That said, the intention of this was for bikes. I think we can call it the Fraser Bike Park and somebody can still come and ride on their scooter or whatever, but just wanted to mention that.
yeah.
It's like a skate park, right? They use these scooters and bikes in there.
Yeah.
Fraser Bike Park.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
All right.
what's next?
Well, you need a motion?
Motion would be great.
I'd like to make a motion to formally title our bike park the Fraser Bike Park.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sure.
A resolution felt like a bit of overkill if it did end
Yeah.
up being the Fraser Bike Park.
Yeah,
So
no, we
thank
don't
you
need
for the
resolution.
motion.
You're welcome.
Okay. Is that it for that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Repair and relocation of Eisenhower statue. Sarah. Yeah.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. So I don't know if you're aware, but we have an Eisenhower sculpture that has been in disrepair for quite a few years. I don't know how many. I've been here for 6 and it's been broken the whole time. We had a concerned citizen, Grant Russell, and Brian, I believe you talked to him. He came to our office, the Sarah's, and I assured him that we would get the sculpture fixed. So
And moved.
and moved so there's only one place in Colorado that I could find that does repair on bronze sculptures, and so I got a quote from them. They said it was going to be around $10,000. We have to remove it and then bring it down and then pick it back up again. The relocation, he kind of warned me on this too. He said, if you do not put it in a place where people don't have access to it, he's like, it's gonna get broken again. So when we're thinking about relocating it, we don't have to decide on that tonight either. But when we're thinking about relocating it, just make sure that you keep that in mind. Joe from Public Works suggested putting it further out into the water so, people wouldn't have access to it.
Yeah, if we could
So-
work with the
Island.
water
Yeah.
district
Right.
to be able to create a freestanding island, that'd
That's-
be really cool.
I'm kind of the opinion of like if we're gonna have this nice walkway down the middle of Clayton Court, why wouldn't it be right in the middle? And maybe we build something on the bottom that it's tall enough that you can't just climb
Well,
up it.
But he won't be
It's the section
fishing
of him
in,
fishing.
I
yeah,
know, but he'll still be next to the river. If it's that kind of the walkway to the river.
Let's say the ponds or.
Well, that's better than my idea. I was like, we'll just put it where the flowers aren't Eisenhower Drive. Like,
one more time.
I was thinking just like put it by the train tracks, or something like, but he's fishing, so, which you know.
Yeah, he is fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It needs to be near.
He needs to be fishing.
My other thought, and sorry to steal your thunder a little bit, but I don't know. We were talking about it at lunch today, and I was like, what if they make the statue with an open hand so you could actually put a real fishing rod in there, and that way if it breaks, you just
Someone steals it.
yeah, or you just get another fishing rod. It's not like paying $10,000 to get another.
Right, it would, would be a
Could
lot
you
less
then skip
expensive.
the repair?
Is that all that's broken? Is the fishing rod?
So he's kind of like this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Grabbing the fish, and like the net has been bent and is kind of broken too, so that needs
Okay.
to be repaired.
So when we do this walkway that you're talking about, it focuses on the Fraser River.
Right.
Could you get him in the river on a pedestal? That's high enough so that it doesn't get impacted?
I don't think you
I don't
put
think you can
concrete
do
in the
that.
middle of the river.
Well,
Well,
plus
it'd be
it
steel.
changes so much that it'd probably wash out.
Well, there is a statue, a plastic one the guy put in by the old Finnegan's Bar and Restaurant by the bridge, the daycare. And it's black and plastic and the paint's coming off and,
I mean, that'd be
but,
cool.
now the pond that's closest to the bike park, that's got some pretty good visibility.
That
If we-
that is what Joe's suggestion.
Yeah, I like that idea. I mean, but we'd have to see if we could get it placed there.
So this wouldn't be installed until next spring, probably.
Yeah,
So we do have some time to
probably
think about
add an
that.
extra couple
We
thousand.
do have money in this year's budget to get it fixed. So from the Art and Public Places budget,
Okay,
we still have plenty of money left in there to get it fixed.
I think Ike needs some tender loving care and he's worth $10,000.
Great.
Definitely needs to be fixed. We should take advantage of people who are willing to donate though as well.
Take advantage of what's that?
Of people who want to donate to fix the statue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Grant tomorrow and let him know that we got approval.
So now, along those lines, there are around that statue, and there's a rock there that commemorates the people that were donors. Have you ever noticed that? They're all overgrown, they're bricks
Yep.
that have people's names, and it's overgrown, but it seems like we should still honor that somehow. We're gonna pull
Well,
the
you could
statue out.
use those to make a pedestal for it.
Yeah, that works.
Maybe.
Or if you put it over in the pond area by the bike park, you could start the brick thing, which I've always loved, where people could buy bricks.
Yeah.
To donate to the bike park, to the,
Statue to yeah, whatever. Yeah.
so,
Yeah, so if you guys are out walking about, you might take a peek.
I was there today.
They're very did you notice the bricks?
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed the homeless guy too.
Oh, was Tony back? Yeah.
So let's not talk about that.
Yeah. The other thing if it's actually on the promenade, then people take pictures next to it.
Yeah.
If it's in the river, then it's like you're too far away. You might take a picture of the statue, but not with the statue.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and there's more people
Right.
that will just be
when you
around
say
there.
the promenade,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which promenade?
Promenade.
The one that goes perpendicular to Clayton Court to the water. Have you seen
I
the
recommend we
comprehensive
have
plan?
Oh,
a field trip.
Before I get it
next-
fixed, I need
next
to know if
spring.
you want that whole rod replaced in bronze too, because that will, that will change the price quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because they're having to basically reform it.
Well,
Um,
he's 10 foot would be
It's huge.
getting a rod for a giant. Do they sell rods for giants?
Oh, yeah, there's that
custom
too.
make 'em.
What's that?
There's
They
people
are
that
really
custom
big.
make ones.
Yeah.
But would it look to scale?
Right, probably not.
well, if you lit this thing and you had some security around it, on the promenade,
Right.
like Now that there's facial recognition everywhere you go. we could-
Right. Some cameras on it.
Yep.
We'll put a camera.
Huh, okay. Well,
But yeah, in a very pedestrian place, it's less likely to get vandalized
Mhm.
versus
right, where it was before.
where it was
Right,
before.
Bad
Yeah.
spot.
It was a rough spot. And
So
if you
good
put it in
point.
the river, it's almost like a challenge. Like, who's gonna
Mm,
go
yeah.
out there and
That's what
touch
I
ice?
was I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
get that
Down
fisherman.
Springfield. I want it right in the middle. you know?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like Jebediah Springfield, exactly.
Well, can I make a motion to approve the repair? And I'll say, let's table the relocation discussion.
Yeah.
Repair of Eisenhower statue.
As is. With the fishing rod.
Well, I mean, I think that we could still decide that if we wanted. You know how much more that's gonna cost? It's gonna be 10,000 for that. How much less would it be if we didn't do the?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's just approve the repair and we can,
We'll
Yeah.
say like up to 10,000.
okay,
Mhm.
up to
If it's
10,000.
less.
Great. Thank
I
you.
can ask what it would be just to fix the net. And potentially like fix that hand too, where the rock would be. And see
Have
what
they-
the price
have they come
difference
up
is.
and looked at it or just from pictures?
Just from pictures.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, and you
Is there
can
a
talk
second?
with him too about the,
Yeah.
what it takes for like even just fishing line from the end of the rod or some kind of, something that's not brass. It goes from there into the net. I don't know.
Second?
There you go. Any
Okay,
further discussion?
Motion. I'll second his motion.
Good gracious.
Any further discussion? All in
Okay, thank
favor?
you.
Hi,
Any opposed? Okay.
let's get a fly rod and spray it bronze.
Right.
Could still be wood. It could be different material.
Yeah.
I
Spray-
don't, you know,
Spray paint.
I like your idea of that.
With
That-
like a
There,
real line.
I've never seen, and I had one, I don't know where it is, but there's not many around. You've
Hard to say they'll cut
yeah,
them
well,
rods.
there's like-
They're again,
like
taking
staycation
one.
there.
to be
Oh, I've
pitched in
seen
there.
that.
You know, you could maybe name that promenade that and have that on a building.
Right.
Just, you
That'd
know,
be photo worthy as well.
that'd be really cool.
All right, Mural Festival 2025. So basically, the Mural Fest happened August 1st through the 3rd. It was downtown Fraser. There were 30 artists from Colorado and also from other states in the US. I never know how many people attend. I said 5,000 over 3 days. It was probably more than that, but it's like fire and ice. I can guess, but
Yeah.
I never know. And I believe Callie, you're online too, right?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Callie.
What would your estimate be on the visitors?
I mean, it's hard to say. I didn't count heads, but Joe thought even on Friday morning that there was more people walking around, by 5 times more people just on Friday
Right.
morning. So
Yeah,
that was
what we
exciting.
saw this year, which was interesting, is that like the what Callie just said, that the Friday and the Sunday like they seemed to be a lot busier. Usually Saturday is just the heavy day, but Friday, like there were a ton of people walking around too.
Yeah, it was very exciting to see so many people in downtown Fraser.
Can you move to the next? That's okay. We can just roll to the next slide. Oh. Did everybody attend Mural Festival?
Yeah, it was great.
Katie, were you working?
Yeah, I had a wedding that weekend.
Oh.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was fun. A lot of great art. I like the rabbit looking over at the city.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool.
I like the sidewalk little raccoons. We call them the can coon because
Yeah.
spray can.
There we go. All right.
Super fun.
So the highlights were obviously the live mural painting throughout town. We have the commission award winner, Jeremy, who is actually painting this week at Camber. So you can go
see the progress of that, the artist choice. We had strong community, we always have strong community and volunteer support. And we added the sidewalk painting, and those things are sticking around. So it's kind of
right.
cool just to see those.
I love it.
Yeah,
They're
they were fun.
They're really fun.
Yeah, we just
Are
added
they
a
all
little.
raccoons?
Mhm.
So
They're all different.
it's a rabbit and a squirrel.
And as always, we see increased foot traffic around town. That's one of the reasons we have decided to keep it around town instead of having it just here, is to give the businesses more foot traffic. It also creates this lively environment. It's always good to see Fraser active and people wandering around, though it does create some, backups in the actual traffic when people are crossing the street. It wasn't that big of a deal. It also elevated Fraser's reputation in the public art destination. We had a lot of people say that they had been to the Mural Fest in years past, and they kind of, save this weekend every year so they can come and see this event. And it also puts Fraser on the map. And a ton of Arvada reached out to me a couple of years ago, and now they do a very similar mural festival. They basically have copied us, which is good for them.
I'll chime in. I met the person from Arvada.
Oh,
He
nice.
Yeah, he ran a business improvement district there, and he had reached out to Sarah. I met him at the Downtown Colorado Inc. conference, and he was a total fanboy and said that Arvada has tried to pull it off, but they just can't do it as well as Fraser. But
Awesome.
Yeah, and I will say this year it seemed to be like the smoothest year. I think every year you do something, you just get better at it. But I mean, that has to do with the Public Arts Committee and of course our Public Works Department. They
and
do
Joel.
physically the heavy lifting of the whole event. We promoted this on social media, of course, the website, print, and radio. KFFR did a large coverage of the event, live interviews, and just broadcasting throughout the whole weekend. And then we did see obviously increased website traffic on Explore Fraser, Colorado during the festival, and then all of the social media sites too. And Callie, I will let you take this slide since Fraser Valley Arts is the main financial beneficiary of this event.
Yeah, and this one's kind of exciting. I had talked to Steve and the rest of the board after making this slide. So the $7,575 was what the donate to vote option was for the People's Choice Award. That was the money that we brought in. And since it's a donation, that is matched by our Fraser resident who pledged to match all of our donations for the next couple of years. So really that number is doubled, which is very exciting. Yeah, and the murals in the auction raised obviously over $11,000. We do split that with the artists, so they get some support there too. So that $13,000 is actually $21,000 that went directly to Fraser Valley Arts.
What was the highest highest bid for a mural?
I think this year was probably $1,700.
Okay.
We've definitely had murals in the past go for $3,000.
Okay.
But yeah, 17. I think, as you can see, the proceeds in the past, it might sort of start to plateau. Might be a little hard for people to find space for an 8x8 mural, but people are still buying them.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You should take it home and put them in your yard with your trampoline.
Yeah, I'm sure that would get approved.
And this was just some feedback from some of the business owners, and then we did a survey on social media too. We didn't really get a lot of feedback on the social media survey. Like in years past we have, I don't know what happened. These are the first, second, and third People's Choice. So the community voted on this. And Callie, they were able to vote online too, correct?
Correct. Yep. The platform we used this year, people were able to vote from anywhere.
So you can do in
And
person
physical.
and online. That was the artist's choice. So all the artists vote on their favorite one.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
And this is the commission award, and this is Jeremy, who's painting over at Camber right now.
Awesome.
And these are just some photo highlights. And that's it.
Good job. Thank you. And
Here,
thank you,
Do you have
Callie.
any
and thanks,
questions?
Phil.
I do.
That's funny.
Back.
Sarah,
Staff.
is it
Sorry, what?
possible to keep up the murals for a second weekend? I feel like they took them down on Thursday.
We normally
Is it
take
so
them
long?
down because they are in
Oh,
businesses. Some of them are.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons that we kind of try and not affect their parking spots and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then the people want to pick them up too.
There's that.
Yeah.
No, you have to see them go.
I know.
Is that it?
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Yeah,
Alright.
thank you.
Thanks.
Good work.
Other updates from the board?
I have one little thing I wanted to touch base on. When we were talking about at the recycling facility and we changed providers for the people to pick up, and now the guys that are doing it offer a free roll-off for metal that you don't have to pay for. They haul it. They said it was free, and we don't have one yet. And I think it would be nice to squeeze one in just for metal.
So that was part of the contract. And
Well,
was that
but
just-
we don't have one.
I know, but was it just like a one-time thing? Like this weekend is your time? to
No,
pick
I
them up?
don't think so. I think that that's what their offer was, looking at it.
Paul, has that new contract started? I think that was part of the switching from
Yeah,
waste management
I'll have to
to
check with Lori and Becky.
Ranch
Okay.
Get
Creek.
back to you.
So
'Cause
if,
Becky handled most of that contract.
yeah, I think it has,
Okay.
because it's not waste management containers anymore. Anyway, if you look into that, because I think it would be a huge service to the community and the town. Be have a place to throw scrap steel and metal and stuff like that that they don't want in your trash. Okay, that's it.
Katie, I'll just add to that recycling note that we are continuing to try to look at a composting possibility with the town of Winter Park.
Yeah.
We're struggling to find an appropriate location within Fraser or Winter Park that would have the size, and you need water and electricity and things like that. So we just got a report back from the compost queen who had done an initial kind of feasibility look for us. So me and I are going to regroup, but we may be expanding our conversation to kind of look wider at see if the county would be interested or Granby may be interested, but just to let you know that that is an
On
ongoing.
the radar.
Yeah,
It's hard to compost up
we've
there.
been keeping pretty busy with other projects. So that one's kind of fallen on the back burner a bit, but are still hoping to explore those possibilities.
Right.
I have a question. The EV charger at the Lions Club ponds, who's responsible for maintaining that?
We are.
It's broken all the time.
I know, and I apologize.
So I don't have a EV, but I heard people talking in the restaurant. And they're like, it's always broken, da da da, and I was like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, we just
it's like-
replaced the power module. It should currently be working.
Okay.
There's two
But-
at the foundry, right?
They're a lot slower.
It's the little ones, but
Yeah.
I guess ours is like a good one.
One of my friends was up here last weekend, had a Tesla, and he said that one didn't work for the Tesla. Maybe it was broken.
The one at the foundry.
No, the one at the Lions Pond.
Yeah, that's what she's saying.
Yeah, it's always broken, I guess. That's what I hear. And then the Foundry has the slow ones.
Correct.
And then the Winter Park one has the fast ones too, I think.
In Cooper Creek, it's a
Yeah,
slow one.
it's a slow.
Yeah.
I guess Devil's Thumb has the best.
Well,
Is what
but
they
you
said.
have to be a guest to use it.
Probably.
Snow Mountain Ranch has newer ones as well at the wide.
Kremling
Yeah.
has the best chargers.
There's
Put a plug
one
for Kremling. We
at
have
Verizon
Tesla
that's about
superchargers
maybe
Okay.
behind Mavericks.
93
In
is
Cooper
part-
Creek.
Huh?
They're
There's a
slow.
Tesla supercharger station.
The back door to the Come and Go in Kremling has it.
They work if you could.
Huh.
Huh?
Downtown.
I didn't know that.
That friendly benefactor. Cool.
All right. Anyway, any other updates?
I have
Well,
I have an
Film
update.
Festival is this weekend. I hope I see all your bright shining faces there because it's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, so please come.
So I have an update. We had talked about needing design for the bathroom and AD ramps in the back. I have two quotes. One from a firm out in Fort Collins, and then one from D2C, the people who just did the presentation. So D2C is the low cost at 6,500, and they both estimate it would take a month. So I need to get with the contractor to see if that works in the time frame, and then so I will have Michael update board on what that looks like if we want to move forward to get that, try and get that done while they're still building on the front of the building. And then as far as town hall project goes, we have hit a roadblock of asbestos in the roof.
Oh, shoot.
So they have to remove 20 square feet of shingles and tar paper and asbestos tar. And currently the estimate is $100,000. So we are getting a third estimate from the Front Range to see if we can bring that down.
Oh.
But I understand the whole purpose of this project was to get the gable and to get the snow shed fixed. So we're prepared to make that work with the budget, but I just want to let the board know we ran into that, and it required scaffolding and bagging and everything on the front of the building to cut out so they can make the structural connections.
Sounds like maybe we should hold off on the bathroom.
Well, I'm hoping because we're not going in the roof that we don't have any asbestos.
Yeah.
Oh, they've got the top, whatever.
I feel like you should throw in a concrete pad and electricity to that area if they're already putting ramps in and stuff.
So you
for-
want me? Okay.
for a
Your
stage?
stage.
Mhm.
I mean, I love the idea, and I'm all for the idea. I just didn't know if we want to get this done now, or if we wait and get the full package and do it, put out an RFP to do it next summer.
Right. Well, I mean, I was just thinking like if they're already back there with concrete,
Yeah.
do that part and then worry about the actual cover on the stage and everything
Okay,
later.
we can
Run
look at that.
conduit to
Yeah.
put the wires through eventually.
Yeah.
Huh?
Alright.
I was
Okay.
just gonna bring it up for the statue.
That it, boys and girls?
That's all I got.
Motion to adjourn.
Further discussion. All in favor?
It's late.
All right.
Yay. Oh, sorry.
Thanks all.
Hopefully it's calm.
Listen, make it on time, dude.
Yeah. What's
What?
that?
I was flying here, I slipped chased him by.
Oh.